Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on this pale blue dot that we all live on. My name is Adamantium and welcome to this edition of AAU TZM podcasts. Just the usual announcements. For those of you listening to this on YouTube right now, my podcasts also exist on talkshoe.com. There's a link to the call series in the video description down below. So for those of you who want to listen to and download the full 60-minute podcast for free in MP3 format, you know, we all love free things, so you can do that. Also, another announcement, today, which is the 5th of August 2012, is going to be the second annual Zeitgeist Media Festival. The main event is going to be in Los Angeles again, but for those of you who, like myself, can't attend, there will be, again, a live stream, which will be on stickam.com/Zeitgeist Media Festival. So, I know I'm going to be watching that. It's going to be, I think, from 11:30 to about 6:30 a.m. Monday morning. It's going to be overnight, but last year was really, really cool, so I'm going to be looking forward to that. But anyway, on to the current show in hand. This is the second part of my discussion with the fantastic James Phillips from TZM Education. So, if you'd like to say hello, James, and welcome back to the show.
Hello, James. Sorry, standard running joke, never quite grown up. Hey, I'm just following orders. Apparently it's important.
But yeah, last time we were talking essentially about the impact that the change of the train of thought that we tend to go through when we discover the Zeitgeist Movement and this train of thought and start to output it, because we actually covered the initial response from family and friends, and I'd say that, just to say, you know, from my perspective, initially a lot of the people that knew me, as some of them I don't actually speak to anymore, because I'd say I probably lost a few friends over becoming an advocate of this direction. But a lot of them said that, you know, I was the member of a cult, or that I was just crazy, or just me being me. I mean, someone actually said to me, "You've always been trouble, Adam. Now you've just got ammunition."
You should have taken that as a compliment.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, you're always trouble, Adam. We always thought that you talked sense. Now you've got proof, so shut up.
But that, you know, that's the initial reaction that people tend to have against the kinds of people that discover this train of thought. But what would you say are, you know, from your perspective, are the lasting effects on, you know, either your friendships or your relationships, or with your family or whichever?
Well, certain members of my family who I used to hold in quite high regard in certain areas, and then you find that really even they've got the blockers on certain areas or topics of discussion where you would have once considered them quite intelligent and quite balanced in their view. You see that some barriers just won't allow, some of the cognitive dissonance in there just won't allow. And I suppose my newfound admiration is for people who are able to say when they're wrong, you know, and turn around and say, yes, I was wrong about that. And it's fascinating. It's one of those things that's viewed as such a weakness in our culture. And to me, it's the opposite. I think you're weak if you can't admit that you're wrong. And I do it on a regular basis. And people, you know, might start to jump to the conclusion that you're somehow flawed because you don't really know what you're talking about if you have to admit you're wrong. But actually, you don't know what you're talking about if you just think the sun shines out your ass most of your life. So I suppose there's that. There's also the fact that, yeah, you lose a certain amount of your own identity that you realise that you put in other people. You know, like, oh, this guy's well cool, man. He's such a great, you know, if your closest friend in the whole world, for example, not this has happened to me at all, but let's just say your closest friend in the whole world just turned around to you one day and for some reason took offence to one particular thing you got into, like the Zeitgeist stuff or whatever it might be, and then suddenly decided that he really didn't like you, you know, screw you, you're a dick kind of attitude, then you put a certain amount of emotional investment in that person because you must have done, because you liked them. You called them every few days to see what they're up to and da-di-da. And obviously if they break that, it's hard, you know? It's difficult. And so I suppose if you held someone in certain high regard in a certain topic area and then you found them out to be wrong, you went to them to point that out and they got awfully offended and uptight about the whole thing when you pointed out a potential error in their thinking and they didn't take it very well, then naturally you go, oh, I've lost some respect for you in this field. What else are you supposed to do? You can't carry on going, well, it's very respectful that you disagree now. I've presented you with all the evidence that proves you wrong. You know, it's like, well, I have to lose some respect for you. I wish you hadn't done that. I wish you'd just gone, oh shit, good point. Then I could have kept my respect for you. But how am I supposed to keep this respect for someone who, you know, doesn't do that? So it doesn't mean, now, here's the important thing, right? You might be able to answer this, but the people you've fallen out with, so to speak, although I wouldn't say I've fallen out with people, I certainly am not as extensional to a fair few people in my life now than I used to be. And that doesn't bother me because I'm extensional to different people now, you know? It's who you share values with to a certain degree and who you enjoy talking to things about. Sometimes I'm talking about, I don't know, sustainable technology and something, and someone's just like, I don't know, they have some sort of derogatory comment to make about you. And to me, it's just like, that's fine. Look, if you want to go on off and talk about like whoever's on the front of OK magazine this week, then crack on. You know, if that's like the barometer of your character as a human being, and that's what you measure yourself by, then drive on, pal. It doesn't wash with me. Yeah, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, but you follow what I mean. Is that
it's cool.
You're extensional with different people at different times in your life, and it's nice to be able to move on without any animosity if you can do it. And the animosity, this is what I was driving at, sorry. The animosity is certainly never going to be on my part. You know, I will still remain cordial with you and friendly with you and try and hold a conversation on whatever level that we're extensional on. But if it isn't in enough areas, then I'll just spend my time with other people.
Yeah, that's one thing I've found. I mean, there's a couple of people who have been in my life up until I've started communicating about a resource-based economy, and then there's been some sort of disagreement. I mean, it's never got to the point of, you know, no one's ever physically attacked me because of this. I mean, it's got close.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's, I mean, a few people that I've known that have actually got physically angry. There was one girl that I was speaking to a few months ago that, you know, she actually got physically angry when I was talking to her about it. And I was asking her, why are you getting physically angry? I mean, you know, we're cool now about it, but it's because of that knee-jerk reaction about that sort of thing. But certain friendships, they have ended. Other ones, you know, that, you know, I've tried to get back in contact with some people, you know, hoping that, you know, enough water has gone under the bridge, so to speak. I've left it for about maybe a year or so. Some of them haven't responded. Yeah, sometimes, you know, depending on how emotionally charged the departure was, sometimes I think, maybe that's a year one. So that's a year gap sort of person to sort of gain.
A gap year.
Yeah, that's a gap year person. But some of them, there was one in particular. She was in a really low point in her life, and I think it was one of her family had recently passed away due to cancer. We were both at a party, and you know how things are. You know, after a while, people are bevied up. You know, people are chatting away, and obviously, being the kind of people we are, we find any kind of excuse sometimes to crowbar in a sort of piece of social commentary, don't we? So and that's definitely
me,
something.
Adam. No, never.
But I'd said essentially that you know, what would a cancer cure do to the economy? And, you know, she'd never said anything at the time, but that had really, really, really upset her. And our friendship had basically just unknowingly just disappeared. It just like faded from existence. And then when I saw her again, a year later, she actually took me to one side and she was profusely apologizing, saying, I'm really, really sorry, you know, I was at a really low point in my life. You know, what you'd said, it had really, really upset me. And, she said that, you know, she'd had time to go away and think about it. I mean, have you encountered any situations like that where, you know, you've actually unknowingly and unintentionally really pissed someone off, but then they come back to you like at some point in the future and said, do you know what? I've actually had to think, and, you know, you're all right. You know, I had to think about it.
No, not off the top of my head. I'm just trying to think. It's just caught me a little bit off guard. You know, you've got to go through the amount of people I've mentioned this to.
I bet between us, we've spoken to hundreds of thousands of people about this sort of thing.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, between us, there's certainly a fair few thousand on our list. But I can't remember. You know, usually the fascinating thing for me is knowing where the access point is with people and how you go about it. How do you know? How do you know what the best route in is? We go on about it in the movement, like, oh, you've got to reach people on their level and communicate on their level of wherever they're at, and what have you. But that's so much easier said than done. Because all you need to do, right, is go in and, like, you know, with the cancer thing, surely that could have worked both ways. Surely. Because let's say if she's a bit touchy about the cancer subject because she had a friend that died because of it, it could have been the case of, you know what, you've got a point. My friend probably died because this system isn't interested in solving cancer because there's too much profit in it. What's this resource-based economy thing? Well, what are you on about? You know, yeah, actually, I'm pissed off. You're right. Well done, Adam. But it can easily work the other way, where you basically say, you know, you're so upset about it that you're taking a jokey, or, you know, you like to think that you and the world would have done everything it could have because you live in a humane society that's interested in human values. And because of that strong, steadfast, you know, emotional attachment you have to the system that you've been reinforced into that says, we stand for human values, we stand for human rights. When you turned around and said, what would this system do if you couldn't solve cancer? Yeah, but this person's like, everybody did everything they could to save, you know, my brother or my sister from cancer or whatever it might be. Who the fuck are you to say that, you know, that you could have saved my brother, you know, and what have you, and that this system that I believe in wouldn't have done that. So do you see what I mean? How the hell were you to know that was going to ruffle someone's feathers?
It's one of the things.
Two ways, man. That could have gone two ways. You could have been a knight in shining armor, and they come over with all arms open and embrace it, or not. You're not to know. But you know, I think the great thing about it is that what I just said there sounds religious, and I just wanted to backtrack and just say that the important thing I always finish a conversation with, regardless of whether someone's in favour or not in favour, is I say, look, if anything I said in this conversation makes sense, or if it sounds outlandish, like it seems a little bit mad, but there might be something in it, either way, go and check it out. Go and objectively
Absolutely
see what I'm talking about.